Okay guys, I don't like to do a lot of pistol reviews. I don't like to do a lot of gear reviews, but people request them, people seem to like them. So we're gonna do one today. We're gonna talk about the Smith & Wesson CSX. Now, this has been a pistol that we purchased about 2 or 3 months ago. And this has been one that we wanted to kind of to pick up and check out for conceal and carry. This is a good size conceal and carry gun, right? It's very similar to a Glock 43X, the Shadow System CR920, something along that size, even the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard. But this one has a external safety, right? So we have our manual safety here, and then we are a hammer-fired gun. So in theory, hammer-fired gun should have a little bit better trigger pull, right? Okay, so this is, let's go over the good and the bad with this. So the good, ergonomically, it feels really, really good in my hands, which I'm not a huge fan of how a gun feels, but you know, they shouldn't feel like a big brick in your hands. And so it does have a very, very nice kind of demeanor to it, right? So I'm a fan of that. I'm not too crazy about the slide serration on here. I don't think it's aggressive enough for generally what I like. I do like a very aggressive slide serration. Part of that's because I live in Alabama, so when I'm out here doing a day training with this, and it starts sweating like crazy, right? It's very difficult for me to get a grip on this. And simultaneously, you'll see here on our grip stippling, right? We have good rough texture back here, but we virtually have no texture here. It's all slick. And so I would have much preferred them put some type of texture here. Now you can cut out some grip tape or something and put some there, but it would have been a lot nicer if they'd done something like that from the factory. So without talking about additions on there, that's where we're at. Now, CSX, along with all M&P pistols, kind of the factory sights are just kind of meh, right? They're not great, they're not terrible, they're not as bad as like a Glock day sight, but they are just kind of meh, right? It's a very, get out of the way here, it's a 3-dot, 3 white dots. They are at least you know, a metal sight as opposed to a plastic sight. But if we were going to keep this thing long-term conceal and carry, I'd be punching those out and putting in a decent quality set of sights on here, something like, you know, XS big dots, Meprolites, whatever. Take your pick. Now, a couple things that I do like about this gun, the controls are ambidextrous, which is really nice for those of you that are left-handed out there. The thumb safety, the manual safety does not have a ton of torque on it. So a lot of 1911s, if they're not designed with a manual safety on the left side, it does put a lot of torque on there, and they tend to bind up a little bit when you're trying to release those. So if you're left-handed, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The magazine is a 12-round magazine. It comes with a 10-round and a 12-round. Now, there is a rebate on it when we bought it, so we got 3 free magazines with it. So make sure you mail in that rebate or ask about it, because they may still have it. Then, in my opinion, the 10-round magazine was fairly stupid and kind of pointless, because it really only removes this little bit here, right? So this little spacer here, that's all that removes. Why not add that extra space for the 12 rounds? It just doesn't save you anything. So in our eyes, you don't gain enough distance here to justify that 2 rounds. I would always carry this with the 12-round magazine. The one thing I will say is using a removable spacer like that is a really, really poor design. That's just lethargic laziness. They just didn't feel like putting any thought into it. So again, if I was going to keep this, I would honestly probably put a tack of super glue behind that and glue that thing down there so it's not sliding up and down the magazine. But kind of digress. Okay, so see, it just actually popped off removing it. So that's one thing that I found fairly frustrating about this, is the way that magazine is. And it would have been a fairly easy thing to fix, right? So that's the difference in the spacer there. So it would have been fairly easy to fix. I would highly encourage Smith & Wesson to jump on that and take care of that, because it just appears chintzy cheap, and it is chintzy and cheap. Now, has the gun been reliable? Yes, it has. We have had very few malfunctions with it. It has been a very reliable gun, every bit on par with something like our Shadow Systems, our Glocks, M&P Shields, stuff like that. It has been absolutely on par with those as far as reliability. But I will tell you, there's one reason I would not carry this, and one reason only, well, I shouldn't say one reason only, but there's one big reason why I wouldn't carry this. And that is the trigger reset on this. This is the worst trigger reset I think I've ever seen in any type of modern pistol. And what I can show you here. So the trigger, for one, your safety is at the bottom. So you really have to get there at the bottom of the safety, rather than, you know, Glock, you can kind of pick it anywhere on the trigger. In this instance, you really have to get there at that very tip of the bottom of it. So there's been a number of times where I've went to hit it, and see, even right there, that won't hit it. I can't pull that trigger. I have to move my index finger to the bottom of the trigger. Okay, so it is a problem for me that is kind of not intuitive. I should be able to hold that trigger anywhere on the trigger and hit that safety. So I would highly encourage, again, Smith & Wesson to move that safety fulcrum point up and get that closer to the top, so that way anywhere I grab that trigger, it'll actually engage the disengage the sear. Okay, now the other thing about this trigger is that it has terrible reset. So if I hit that trigger and I pull this back, there's a false reset right there. There's a false reset. You can see it. So if I am riding my trigger forward, what'll happen is I'll come forward and it's not going to go off, and I have to come past that reset. There we go. There's my second reset. So that's actually a big problem, and we've run into a lot of issues with that when we're running drills and really trying to push the speed on the gun, and even just doing things as control, very simple drills with controlled pairs where we're drawing and shooting 2 shots, and we can't get that second shot because we fall into the issue of that false reset there. Now, the one thing I will tell you is there is a fix on that. Supposedly, you can have a gunsmith do some polishing on the internals and that sort of thing, and you can take care of that. And they say once you break it in, it will fix that. This one has about 2,000 rounds to it. It has not fixed it yet. So take that for what it's worth. The one thing I will say about it is I don't like sending carry guns in to have their trigger worked on, because you end up running the risk of having something along those lines brought against you in court. You can go, Masad Ayub has a ton of videos on that sort of characteristic on court. So definitely he's a subject matter expert there. Go check out his videos. But from my standpoint, I try to avoid, as a general rule, having work done to a trigger on any type of carry gun. So I would really hope that Smith & Wesson would deal with this and fix this issue, and hopefully at some point in time they'll fix this issue and we could maybe send this gun back in and have some work done on it. As of right now, this is not a gun that I would recommend as a daily carry because of that, because everybody from beginning shooters to advanced shooters that we've run this through and we've allowed them to use this in our courses, they have all had similar problems with this. We had a woman the other day that she couldn't get it to reset, couldn't get it to reset. It was like you got to take your finger like completely off of it to get it to reset. So other than the trigger being god-awful, it's been a really nice gun, ergonomically very nice, and I'm not a trigger snob, guys, so don't get me wrong. This isn't one of those things. I don't put $300 triggers into my Glocks and then say, oh, it's got a great trigger now. I shoot factory triggers for the most part on all my guns, so I'm not a trigger snob by any means, but this is one that, because the trigger is so bad, it would be very difficult to carry. So now, this does seem like a quality gun, so hopefully Smith & Wesson will pull their head out of their ass and fix this stuff. But I'll leave you guys with that and let you guys kind of take a look at it and see what you think.